GM of Talent and Player Strategy at the Gold Coast Suns, Craig Cameron, is with us. Craig, Jamara Ugle-Hagan. So the meeting last week, what did you see in Jamara and what were you looking to see in Jamara?
We were looking to see someone who was going to make a commitment to getting himself back to a position where he could play consistent football. And I'm talking about actually being able to get on the park and play consistent football. He met with our leadership group. He met with our Indigenous liaison officer in Jared Harbrow, and obviously had a chat to the coach and myself. We've still got to run through some things with him. He hasn't done a medical with us, which he'll do today. We've got to speak to the AFL about a number of other things, and I've still got to get down to Tintax with Robbie D'Orazio, his manager, on what the contract and protections look like inside that. So there's a little bit to play out there, but we are progressing that.
So is this just broadly, is this something that the coach Damien Hardwick is passionate about, Craig? Like he's got a history of I guess, these sorts of list management decisions and most of them have been successful. I guess seeing a path to redemption for guys like Jamara?
Oh, look, redemption is only one element of this. The number one thing is, do we think that a Jamara fit and healthy can help us as a footy club? That's the number one decision we have to make. And we believe he can play again. He can play with our keys because he's a slightly different tall player inside our forward 50. We don't think he's a legitimate key position player. We just think he's a player with high forward craft and IQ. Which adds a different mix. The redemption side of things, I mean, that's a nice story, but the number one thing is he's got to be able to come in and play football for us and play to a level.
Craig, I think everyone thinks he could do that in an ideal world. Like there would be 17 other clubs that would think that Jamara at his best could do that, but there's reasons why they haven't pursued this, because it's been really hard. It's been hard to get him to actually train. Why do you believe your club can get him to turn the corner of what has been such a challenging last 12 months?
That's a good question, Kane. And when answering these questions, sometimes it sounds like you sort of beat your chest and say our club can do something that other clubs can't. So what I'd like to say is that the Western Bulldogs is a really good football club. And nothing I'm about to say is meant to be any detrimental to them in any way. But I just think the fact we're not in Victoria and we're out of that football bubble and away from some of the elements that have probably taken Jamara away from the path that he should be on, it is a good place for him to start to rebuild his footy career. In fact, I think they're a major part of it. We have a pretty strong Indigenous cohort within our playing group, which I think can also help Jamara, and we have great confidence that Jared Harbrow, as our liaison officer, will play a big role in all of that as well.
Craig, he's not your player, obviously, well, not yet, so I'll choose my words here, but were you surprised that he played in that amateur footy carnival over the weekend?
Oh, there was a couple of other listed players playing there as well, Sam, and like in some ways him playing football again is a good thing. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a conversation for the Bulldogs, given that he's still contracted to them. But I think the fact that he's back playing footy is a good thing.
Yep. Craig, the Bailey Humphrey situation has been eyebrow raising, to say the least. Has he told you himself or via his management that he actually wants to be traded at this stage?
Not in so many words, but I mean, we're not naive enough to think that you visit a number of clubs and that's not on your mind. But I mean, the eyebrow raising side of things, I can leave to you guys to sort of comment on. I find it, as I said on Monday, a head scratcher. But we're really clear. We're not trading Bailey Humphrey, so it's just not something we're going to entertain. I think the thing we've all got to understand now is that the landscape has changed and still evolving around players that are contracted looking to change clubs. And that I think as an industry, we have to accept that that's what the landscape now is. But the flip side of that is that players and managers have to accept that they can ask the question, but when players are contracted and the club says no, that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that I think it's a two-way street on this. If they want to explore, well, as much as we don't like it, we're going to have to accept that's a new world. But once a club's definitive with its answer, that's what's got to be accepted.
Which I love, and we've spoken about this, and I love the club's stance on this. So has he been let down by his management, and has he been poorly advised?
So I don't know what he's been told directly, Kane. So whether he's been poorly advised again, I'll leave it to what you guys see and think of that. I would prefer that it hasn't. I would prefer that this hasn't played out the way it's played out so publicly. Absolutely. Not just I would prefer, our whole club would prefer. It's unusual. I don't think I've seen it before. And as you pointed out at the start of the show, Sam, I've been around for a while and I haven't seen anything like this play out the way it has. So it's been disappointing.
Has Damien Hardwick spoken to Bailey directly? They've spoken, haven't they, in the last couple of days?
Yeah, a number of times.
Yeah. And what's the message from Damien to Bailey, without chapter and verse, but broad brush?
The message is pretty clear that we love him. We think that he's still in the development phase to become a really good footballer for this footy club. You've got 3 years to go on a contract, Bailey, and we're not trading you.
So to the best of your knowledge then, what would be his motivation for meeting with other clubs?
I think, again, Bailey would have to give us that answer directly. He's 21 and he's impetuous, and it's as I said before, it's a bit of the way of the world at the moment. That guys think that they can get out when they're on a contract, and they might think the grass is greener somewhere else. But it's just not going to happen.
How do you think he'll go returning and facing his teammates?
I think he'll be fine. Footy clubs like Kane, once players come back, get into pre-season, you have camps and games start to play, I think it all gels together pretty quickly. I'm sure he'll probably feel a little bit awkward the first day he comes back, but we'll be able to work through that with him in the interim. So I don't think it'll be a problem.
Now, this time next week, hallelujah, the trade period will be done and dusted. Do you feel like Zach Merritt will be in the brown and gold by then, Rob?
Look, it's a difficult one to answer. Obviously, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done at present for that to take place. We've made no secret though. We want to get better as a football club, and we performed really well this year. We got to a prelim final that Hawthorn's a club that's built on premierships, and players of the calibre of Zach would help us get a little bit closer. So that's why our interest lies there.
The Bombers have been pretty firm so far in their remarks, Rob. They've said they won't even field calls from you when it comes to Zach Merritt. I mean, have you tried picking up the phone yet?
Oh, look, I'm not going to go into the personal calls that we make around this one and whether they're answering or not. But look, I think, in these cases, both clubs have to find where their position is, and sometimes that opens the door for a conversation, and then the negotiation starts, and obviously both clubs want to feel like the outcome of those negotiations, if they reach a deal, is one that they can sort of go back to their club and their members to say this is going to be something that's going to be good for us.
Just before we do go to a break, Stephen May, I mean, he's still got a year to run at the D's. Is that where you expect him to remain?
Yeah, he appears set to remain at Melbourne. That's unless a suitor emerges quite late in this period. Collingwood took a look, but not the right fit for them. Sydney has ruled out a move for him, although they're another club that probably could do with a little bit more key defensive depth. And the Western Bulldogs have been searching for a key defender, but again, the age profile, it doesn't quite fit what they're looking for. They don't want a stopgap key defender. They want someone to build around going forward. And if they don't land anyone, they're pretty confident on Jed Buslinger and James O'Donnell popping next year after a full pre-season. Jed Buslinger's never had one. So I think the most likely outcome right now with Stephen May is he remains a Demon. That's always been a high chance. They're not pushing him out. They've told him to explore because they want to expose more youth. Jed Adams made his debut this year. They like him. Disco Turner, they really rate, and we can see him he's already become a permanent fixture this year, but going on and playing 23 games next year. So I think the most likely outcome is Stephen May remains a Demon.
A man with lots on his plate ahead of this year's trade period is Tim Lamb, Melbourne list boss. He has been kind enough to join us here on Gettable. Tim, thanks for coming on.
G'day, boys. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Might start with Craig Cameron this morning spoke on Trade Radio and said there had been discussions between the two clubs about Christian Petrarca. Where do they sit at the moment?
Really preliminary discussions only at this stage, guys. That's be the best way to describe it.
Can you take us any further into those preliminary discussions? Where we've seen the value on a guy who's got 4 years to go on his contract, but obviously is looking to find a new home?
Yeah, we won't be going much further into any detail, Cal, unfortunately, on the very preliminary discussions, because that's all they are. And as we've said sort of all along, we love Track. He's expressed a desire to potentially move somewhere else, and we've said we'll look at something as long as it's in the best interests of the club. So that's sort of our position. And, we haven't really progressed anything very far at all.
Has Clayton Oliver let the club know yet on his call on where he wants to go? I mean, it seems likely that it's towards the Giants, but has he made a call definitively yet?
No.
Is that what you're expecting, that it's to the Giants?
Well, from what I'm hearing, from the media speculation, it appears like he's going to want to potentially move to the Giants, but we haven't spoken to the Giants, haven't spoken to Clayton, and there has to be a deal worked out.
There was obviously the meeting last week with Clayton where it was where you let him know to explore his options. When was the decision made to?
That's not quite right. We, as I said last week, we met with Clayton and spoke about the future and how they looked and how the coach wanted the midfield to play and where Clayton fitted in with all of that. So out of that has come that he has wanted to explore some options, but wasn't a direction from us to do that.
Okay. From a trade point of view, are you allowed to let us in on what you might be targeting in return there?
No, as I said, we haven't been told anything official. So, I'm not being evasive, guys. It's just where things sit, unfortunately.
The free agency window closes on Friday, Tim. Will Brodie Mychek get done as a free agent or a trade after that?
At this stage, I think it's looking likely could be a free agent. We're talking to Collingwood about a couple of little options, but if they don't come to fruition, then we're committed to bringing Brodie in, so that we're very, very comfortable to do that as a free agent. We think he's going to be an unbelievable acquisition to our club. He's a terrific player, terrific person, great teacher of our young forwards. We're really excited with the talent we've got up there in Ben Royan and Jefferson and Kentfield and AJ. Have someone of the stature of Brodie Mychek, who I think is a 5-time leading goal kicker at Collingwood, on our list. That really adds something that up the front end of ground that we've been looking for a little while. So we're exploring all those options, and you're talking about the trade because of the Charlie Spargo compensation.
Yep.
But if it turns out that we do use Brodie bring Brodie on as a free agent, we're really, really, really happy with that.
Cal Wilkie obviously will be a favourite for that and is recommitted, if you want to put it that way, into staying there at the footy club after the Western Bulldogs launched a pretty significant play for him. How did you keep him as part of that? And has he actually added more years to his deal as part of this agreement?
Yeah, good questions. I think, he's such a well-regarded person within the club and, well-liked, demonstrates great leadership skills and, very, obviously a great player for us. So, Ross was very keen to keep him and had chats with him along that front. He was good in the end. I think really he wanted that probably security of tenure and our commitment towards him. So it wasn't so much changing what he's got already. He had 2 years to go. It was more about adding on at the back end of that. So he's got a longer period in contract, and he was really good with that process. Happy to recommit.
So he does have more years beyond the next two?
Yes, correct.
How many have we got there, Carl?
It's the obvious next question. Look, I think there's a couple of years added on, so it just extends out his tenure and makes him, a one-club player at the Saints.
Sam Flanders' trade went through on Wednesday, Carl. What was the sell to get him to choose St Kilda, given he had so much interest across Victorian clubs from Melbourne, Essendon, met with Carlton as well?
Yeah, he did. He did have a lot of interest. Real quality player. And look, I think he did his research, had a look at where we're positioned as a club. I think he really liked the young group that's emerging here, coupled with some of the senior players as well. And just, I think the way we're heading as a club, the players who are already here, but some of the players joining as well, I think was a really good sign for him in terms of what he wanted to do and his connection with Ross and saying, wanting to play under Ross as well were really big selling points from our end. And I think he might have commented on that the other day, but it was really great to see him join us for those reasons.
What shakes out as a result of the Charlie Curnow deal, which I think now, having been 50-50 on it on Monday when the trade period opened as to whether or not a deal for Charlie Curnow will go through, I'm pretty confident that happens now. It's just all about getting a deal done. And as you've said repeatedly, no offers have actually been made for Charlie Curnow as yet. We are 6 days away from the trade period ending, so that has to progress at some stage as well.
They've always had the door open though, haven't they? Like we've seen some shut doors through this trade period. This one's always been open for the right price, for the right players, and if the right players are involved. So I feel like that's always been a footy club that's been open to a deal if the price is right. And it's up to Sydney and Geelong, which is running out of time in some ways to be able to put something together with a group that doesn't look like anyone wants to leave at this point either.
Did Charlie Curnow train with a Geelong player this morning?
He did. Well, according to Instagram, he did. Bailey Smith just posted a nice little photo with Charlie Curnow looking like a nice coastal day with a few footies out and about. So, yeah, if that was just another hint, those two know what they're doing.
I was just reading a tweet and I had to send a text. So Cal Toomey has just tweeted, breaking news, St Kilda has pulled out of its interest in Lecca. The Saints have told the Giants they will not be pursuing him. Cal Toomey in the last 3 or 4 minutes. It's on Twitter. I'm assuming that's where it is. Yep, perfect. So St Kilda has pulled out of its interest in Lecca. The Saints have told the Giants they won't be pursuing him. Now, pursuing him. And just quickly, I was trying to find out. Lecca did, on the public record, request a trade to the St Kilda Football Club, didn't he? Yeah, okay. So that's what I was trying to find out just quickly, because we don't see that a great deal.
So it's a backflip.
It's a backflip, yeah.
So there was Hutchie posed this question the other day. In fact, I think Kane might have on the... Hutchie posed it off here, sorry. But Kane...
here we go. It's dangerous.
Our production for last week's agenda set is that buyer's remorse. Would Brisbane now, with the Oscar Allen situation, I said, well, they don't. Once they've committed, they commit.
Yeah.
And they did. They went through with it, obviously. Brisbane did. But I thought there was a commitment there.
Oh, I don't know. I know that they chased him last year.
That's going to be cause all sorts
and
of
then
troubles.
all year, it was the assumption that Lecca clearly would be a player that St Kilda would be into. I don't know
So he's requested a trade to St Kilda?
Well...
He's not doing that unless St Kilda have said that we're going to get you in.
I was just trying desperately, and I do apologise to our call-up.
We've got plenty of cash. Whether they haven't got plenty of cash. Maybe.
Or maybe... Here we go. This is the age. Aaliyah requests trade to Saints.
Yep. Well, that's pretty obvious.
There you go.
Pretty straightforward.
He requested a trade to the Saints at his exit meeting on Monday. And a source familiar with negotiations who spoke anonymously confirmed that Aaliyah's request and that the Saints had presented him with a 4-year offer, which is worth, to be believed, about $700,000 annually. That is from the age about a month or so ago. So it is a backflip from someone.
It's a massive backflip.
Cal Toomey has only just tweeted in the last 4 or 5 minutes that St Kilda has pulled out of its interest in Aaliyah. The Saints have told the Giants they won't be chasing him anymore.
Wow. That is a real turn in events.
Just speaking of Cal, he has tweeted, I think in the past few moments, that Liam Ryan has been traded to St Kilda in exchange for the Saints' 2026 second-round pick. Plus, the Eagles will give St Kilda a 2027 third-round pick. History has been made with the first future pick traded. So there you go. The Saints, not surprisingly, given the aggression they're displaying in this trade period, have used the first 2 years in advance pick.
I like it. It's good to see. I've followed the two sports across in America for a long time, and NFL and NBA, and this is common practice. I mean, NBA teams will trade 4 or 5 years down the path and just trade every possible pick that they've got at their disposal to get a big time player in. So good to see. It just adds another lever and makes some of these deals a lot more feasible.